In the viral world of the digital age, TikTok is, without a doubt, one of the biggest platforms that harbors and sparks creativity in its 1 billion daily active users. However, while most videos on TikTok are harmless fun, many set a precedent for dangerous stunts to go viral, thus encouraging many impressionable people to partake in said stunts to be a part of a trend bandwagon to extract as much clout as possible. This video will explore dangerous TikTok trends. We'll discuss various trends from least dangerous to most dangerous, how they came to light, and the potential or resulting consequences some have faced following their participation in said trends. With that said, welcome to the dangerous world of TikTok trends.
The family sharing this graphic image of Jacob in the hospital so others can see firsthand what the challenge did to him.
A 12-year-old boy is on life support after his parents say he may have tried a social media challenge.
I've washed my hair 15 times and it don't move.
When it comes to causing mischief, one classic practical joke a lot of kids and teenagers do is ding-dong ditching, which involves ringing the doorbell of a random person's home and then running away to confuse or piss off said person for a good laugh. However, sometime around 2021, TikTok users would take it up a notch and kick homeowners' doors to scare them into thinking that a home invasion was happening. This would kick off, no pun intended, and popularize what is known as the door-kicking challenge. On the surface, this challenge might not be as harmful as many other well-known trends, but it can lead to unfortunate consequences. Not only can it lead to criminal charges, fines, and even jail time, but it can also lead to death if you live in a place that has a stand your ground law. A stand your ground law essentially allows a victim to defend themselves through deadly force in self-defense if they feel threatened by a perpetrator. In other words, you could risk the possibility of being killed by someone if you were to partake in this trend, which is where the dangerous aspect comes into play. While there isn't any documentation that suggests that people were killed doing this trend, there are many examples of people, particularly teenagers, being charged for doing said trend. A prime example is in March 2024, when 5 Indianapolis teenagers were tried in court for partaking in the door kick challenge. The consequences could have been much worse, considering that Indiana has stand your ground laws put in place.
Oh my God!
When it comes to putting yourself in harm's way for internet clout, many TikTok users would take that risk despite how dangerous it may be, and risking a concussion for clout is, unfortunately, something that TikTok users aren't a stranger to. In late 2019, a trend called the Throw It in the Air challenge went viral, where groups of people would gather around a circle, put a phone in the middle of the circle, and throw objects in the air while looking down at the phone. On paper, this trend might sound safe, but it got dangerous when people started to throw hard and heavy objects in the air. It started off with people throwing stuff like eggs and basketballs in the air to dodge them before they hit them on the head, but as the trend got more popular, people would raise the stakes and throw stuff like metal ladders in the air, which is obviously far more dangerous. Thankfully, there's no evidence to suggest that someone was killed doing this trend, but it did cause a lot of people to be injured, unsurprisingly. The Cha-Cha Slide is a song that many people have listened to at least once in their lives. The main idea behind the song is to dance to the lyrics, which is what made it a cultural impact among millions. But of course, TikTok would once again add their dangerous twist to the song and would swerve their car to it, thus birthing what is known as the Cha-Cha Slide Challenge. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to understand that recklessly driving to a song for TikTok clout is a stupid idea. But of course, that wouldn't stop people from partaking in the trend. The trend started when the pandemic was in its early stages in early 2020, so it can be inferred that it started because people were bored while in lockdown. Either way, there are many better and safer ways to keep yourself occupied when you're bored. Thankfully, there haven't been any serious injuries or deaths that have been tied to the Cha-Cha Slide Challenge, but this wouldn't be the only instance of a vehicle-related trend becoming viral. Moving away from the subject of reckless driving, in early 2021, a woman named Tessica Brown went viral on the internet after she posted a video of her talking about how she ran out of hairspray and stupidly put Gorilla Glue in her hair as an alternative.
When I do my hair, I like to, finish it off with the little Got to Be glue spray, just to keep it in place. Well, I didn't have any more Got to Be glue spray, so I used this Gorilla Glue spray. Bad idea. Yo, look. My hair, it don't move. I've washed my hair 15 times and it don't move.
Many people would clown on her and make memes about her, and this would cause some TikTok users to get their creative juices flowing. They would follow in Tessica's footsteps and apply Gorilla Glue to themselves, either on their hair or skin. Unfortunately, one person was sent to the ER after partaking in this challenge, and surprisingly enough, it was a 37-year-old man named Len Martin. But he didn't do the challenge for clout. He instead did it because he thought that Tessica was exaggerating the seriousness of her injury and wanted to prove that she was lying. He reportedly glued his lips together with Gorilla Glue, and as a result, he was rushed to the hospital. As for Tessica, she started a GoFundMe to pay for her surgery and ended up raising $20,000 as a result, which is good, but even so, it can't be denied that what she did was pretty dumb. In case you haven't noticed, there's a bit of a pattern in TikTok trends involving hurting yourself in some way, and the teeth filing challenge is no exception. In mid-2020, when the pandemic was in full swing, a TikTok influencer named Mia Dio made a video of her filing her front teeth with a nail file to make them look more even with each other. The video went viral, and many teens partook in filing their teeth to make them look more even, thus starting what is known as the teeth filing challenge. Aside from the fact that doing this can cause side effects like tooth decay and tooth sensitivity, the kids who participated in this trend would file their teeth down to the point where it looked like they were trying to win a Jaws lookalike contest. Following the trend going viral, many licensed dentists would go on to warn people about the risks of participating in the challenge, and Mia Dio was interviewed by the Washington Post, where she went on to say that she was just kind of documenting her crazy idea that she had at 4 in the morning, and that it was a work of quarantine DIY. She got the idea to file her teeth when she felt hesitant to go to a dentist because of the pandemic. Upon seeing the negative impact the trend had, she would go on to say that you shouldn't be a DIY dentist, as it won't necessarily be fine for the next person who tries it. At first glance, many would argue that filing your teeth is relatively harmless, and the same could be said for scalp popping. Scalp popping is when one pulls their or someone else's hair to make a popping sound. For those who don't know, the popping sound comes from the galea aponeurotic, which is the skin that is connected to your scalp. Scalp popping is also a popular way to treat headaches and migraines in certain cultures, with Mexico being a prime example. It's also prominent in a lot of those Indian head massage videos you see on YouTube. But while it can be seen as a remedy or as a way to relax someone, it can be dangerous. For example, if you were to pull your hair too hard or in an odd way, you could tear your scalp or straight up pull your hair out, which could cause bleeding or an infection. Moving forward, the nutmeg challenge, which gained traction in April 2020, requires you to consume large amounts of nutmeg to achieve a high from it. For those who are unaware, nutmeg is an ingredient commonly used in food like pumpkin pie to give it and other foods a sweet taste. However, it can cause a lot of negative side effects such as nausea, dizziness, hallucinations, and in rare cases, death. This is because the spice includes a chemical compound called myristicin, which can cause hallucinations if it's ingested in heavy amounts. While there isn't any documentation of deaths caused by the nutmeg challenge, it did send a 19-year-old participating in the trend to the hospital, but he thankfully ended up recovering in the end. With the nutmeg challenge being a prime example of how people use everyday items specifically to participate in harmful challenges, the same could be said for the salt and ice challenge. This trend is pretty much self-explanatory. To partake in this challenge, you have to put salt and ice on your open skin and see how long you last before backing out. On paper, this sounds relatively harmless, but for those who don't know, to put it simply, when you mix salt and ice, it causes a chemical reaction from the salt disrupting the melting of the ice, and coupled with the heat of your skin and room temperature, it results in the mixture becoming very cold. And it doesn't take a genius to realize that exposing your skin to extreme cold can lead to harmful side effects like frostburn or even frostbite in extreme cases. A known incident where someone got injured doing this challenge was in April 2024. According to an article in Daily Mail, a reality TV star by the name of MC Tame took part in the challenge by filling a bucket with salt and ice and sticking her feet inside of it, which resulted in her getting first and second degree burns, as well as nearly having to get her toes amputated. Despite the extreme pain that followed, she ended up making a recovery. Unfortunately, she obviously wouldn't be the only person to get injured this badly after doing this challenge. To be clear, this trend didn't start on TikTok per se, as it has been circulating the internet since the early 2000s, but it sort of had a resurgence in popularity on TikTok somewhere around 2022. Continuing with the theme of using everyday items for dangerous challenges, Dragon Breath is an Asian dessert concocted around the mid-2010s. The dessert is a liquid nitrogen frozen piece of cereal skewed on a stick. The main idea is to eat it, and as your mouth melts the piece of frozen cereal, it will produce vapors, which then emerge from one's mouth and nose. If you've ever been outside in below freezing weather, then you've most likely seen your breath or emissions from car exhaust turn into a white smoky gas. The Dragon Breath dessert does just that, hence the breath part. This delicacy would eventually be picked up by TikTok users in early 2023, originally originating Indonesian users, thus popularizing what is known as the Dragon Breath Challenge. While liquid nitrogen is commonly used to prepare certain foods, and while it can be safe to consume dragon breath if you know what you're doing, it can lead to a lot of horrible injuries to your insides if it's not handled properly. And given that teens and kids are naive when it comes to safety or participating in dangerous trends in general, there are bound to be a few instances of someone getting hurt here and there. While there are no documented deaths that happened because of this trend, it did leave 2 Indonesian kids hospitalized as a result. While dragon breath is considered a delicacy in many cultures, the same cannot be said for NyQuil chicken. In 2017, an inside joke circulated on 4chan involving a guy cooking chicken drenched in NyQuil and calling it Sleepy Time Chicken. At first, it started off as a funny inside joke, but in late 2022, the trend became popular on TikTok. Thankfully, there aren't any reports of anyone overdosing or being seriously injured after doing this challenge, but it can introduce a lot of dangerous side effects if one partakes in it, with death being a significant one among many others. Aside from potential overdosing upon consumption, cooking chicken with NyQuil can release harmful fumes, which can also introduce harmful side effects when inhaled. While most of the trends mentioned so far have been fairly dangerous, they're considered tame compared to the next trends, starting off with the fire challenge, and it's kind of self-explanatory. The main idea is to light yourself on fire and put yourself out as quickly as possible before you become the Charpo ragdoll from Gmod. Now this challenge has been around for years, but as always, it would become popularized on TikTok, and it would unfortunately be the cause of many incidents of kids getting hurt. The most well-known incident involved a 12-year-old from Tucson, Arizona, who had suffered from 2nd and 3rd degree burns following his participation in the challenge. He thankfully survived and recovered from his injuries. Abusing medications for clout isn't something unheard of on the internet, and while the NyQuil chicken challenge imposed risks some could take, the Benadryl challenge is a trend that not only sent several kids to the hospital, but would also be the cause of the death of a 15-year-old girl from Oklahoma in 2020 and a 13-year-old from Ohio in 2023. The goal of the Benadryl challenge was to take enough to the point where you'd be subjected to hallucinations. But of course, it should go without saying that taking excessive amounts of drugs can lead to horrible side effects. And as for Benadryl's side effects, it can lead to seizures and organ damage among many, and most notably, it can lead to death. This trend is one of the most popular and widespread trends to exist, and it sparked a lot of concern among the public, labeling TikTok as an app that encourages kids and teens to do dangerous stunts for clout, especially with the lack of enforcement there is on the platform. While it isn't the primary trend to have caused this much of an impact, it definitely fueled the public awareness of dangerous trends. For a lot of TikTok trends, attempting to maintain a high from dangerous substances seems to play a central theme given how teenagers and kids strive to feel a sense of independence from doing drugs or taking dangerous substances. With that said, a trend has been circulating throughout 2024, and that trend would be known as the chroming challenge. Basically, the chroming challenge would have participants inhale fumes from compressed canisters in order to maintain a momentary high from it. Everything from hairsprays to permanent markers to computer dusters, you name it. Kids and teens would inhale it as a part of this challenge. It obviously goes without saying, but inhaling toxic fumes from canisters can lead to a lot of horrible side effects, many of them having a life-lasting effect as well. According to the American Addiction Centers, these toxic fumes, when inhaled in significant amounts, can lead to memory loss, a lower IQ, an inability to concentrate, impaired judgment, brain damage, and even death among other things. Of course, this trend of inhaling toxic fumes in canisters and markers has been a thing for many years, unfortunately, but TikTok would repopularize it by allowing the chroming challenge to slip through the cracks and gain traction on the platform. With kids and teens actively hopping on this bandwagon, it would spread like wildfire, and the consequences would be catastrophic to say the least. Unfortunately, this trend would take the lives of many kids, with a more well-known incident being the death of an 11-year-old boy from England in early 2024. It's said that he participated in this trend during a sleepover, and after his death, many people have blamed TikTok for promoting the chroming challenge and other deadly challenges to their impressionable users, despite the constant doubling down that has been done to prevent these deadly trends. The Kia challenge sparked in popularity in 2022, and it unfortunately led to 8 deaths as a result. A manufacturing flaw in Kia and Hyundai models made from 2011 to 2021 would be discovered in 2021, and it allowed perpetrators to start ignitions in said vehicles without using a key. This was because these vehicles lacked engine immobilizers, which prevented cars from starting without the proper key, and that design flaw allowed people to hotwire Kia and Hyundai cars using only a USB cable and other objects. Grand Theft Auto crimes would soar following this design flaw becoming more known to the public. This is where the TikTok trend comes into play. In 2022, a group of juvenile juveniles on TikTok who call themselves the Kia Boys went viral as they uploaded videos online of them exploiting the design flaw to their advantage to steal Kia and Hyundai cars and recklessly drive in said stolen cars. Of course, the challenge would pick up momentum on TikTok and would be blamed for the deaths of 4 teenagers in October 2022, one 55-year-old man in May 2022, and one 16-year-old teenager in December 2022. In response to the Kia challenge, TikTok would take down any videos of the challenge, and Kia and Hyundai would go on to install immobilizers in all of their vehicles going forward, as well as giving away free steering wheel locks to all customers. It's no secret that the 2020 pandemic changed a lot of people's lives and has made society feel completely isolated from the outside world. With the quarantine going into full swing at the pandemic's peak, many people were desperate to find something to occupy themselves with while at home, and TikTok was many people's go-to time killer. However, one TikToker by the name of Ava Louise saw the pandemic as a way to gain traction on the platform. A video of her licking the toilet seat of a public airplane would surface, thus starting what would be known as the COVID-19 challenge. This trend is pretty much self-explanatory, as the goal is to lick commonly touched objects in order to try to catch COVID-19. Things like doorknobs, handles, and again, toilet seats. To no one's surprise, many kids and teens would contract COVID as a result of participating in this challenge, and that would only make others susceptible to catching the virus because of that. In an interview with the Miami Herald, she casually admits to starting the trend for clout, saying how she trolled America because it was a clean toilet seat. It's worth noting that she was previously on Dr. Phil for her obsession with being Insta-famous, and for saying that she would rather die hot than live ugly, so do with that as you will. While the Benadryl challenge caused a huge stir in the mainstream media, the same can be said for the Tide Pod challenge. This trend is probably the OG trend that gave TikTok the reputation that it has today, and it probably was the catalyst that started the trend bandwagons that came after it. Emerging in popularity in early 2018, the concept of eating a Tide Pod became a huge meme after people on social media platforms would post about how tempting it was to eat one because of its candy-like appearance. The challenge itself would blow up in popularity mainly on TikTok and YouTube as a result, and the consequences would be catastrophic. Several kids and teens would end up in the hospital, and the United States Poison Control Centers would skyrocket in cases of people eating Tide Pods intentionally. In an attempt to prevent any further damage, major retailers such as Walmart and Target started to encase Tide Pods inside plastic containers, and social media websites began to crack down on videos promoting the challenge, and as time went on, the trend would inevitably fade away. The Blackout Challenge is also a trend that contributed to TikTok's reputation as dangerous. While all the trends previously mentioned can be or are deadly, the Blackout Challenge would go on to be the deadliest TikTok trend to date, as it has reportedly contributed to the deaths of 20 kids. The challenge would gain traction in 2021 on TikTok, and the premise behind it was to cut off oxygen to your brain by choking yourself to make yourself pass out and regain consciousness afterward. This trend by far caused the most catastrophic impact globally, with many families of the victims coming forward to sue TikTok over concerns of potential endangerment the platform could ensue on children using the app, essentially pinning the blame on the company itself for letting this and many other dangerous trends to be on the platform. As with any other dangerous trend, TikTok would crack down on any videos of people participating or promoting the challenge, and with that change being put in place, the trend faded away. With all this said and done, it's clear that TikTok either doesn't do enough to prevent these trends from reaching the eyes of their many impressionable users, or they simply aren't quick enough to respond to the rise of a deadly trend before people get hurt. TikTok themselves have come out saying how they do not condone any dangerous trend from being allowed on their platform, but the amount of deaths that these trends in question have caused gives people the motivation and grounds to blame them for not taking any action. But since TikTok runs on an algorithm, it's sort of out of their control on what gets recommended to users, and that's always the argument they go with in these lawsuits. With the United States Supreme Court pushing the nationwide TikTok ban, there will no doubt be a drop in deaths and injuries caused by trends. All in all, only time will tell.